This is the Russian fairy tale called To Your Good Health. Long, long ago, there lived a Tsar who was such a mighty ruler that whenever he sneezed, he expected everyone in his kingdom to say, "To your good health." Everyone said it. Everyone except for a shepherd with bright blue eyes. He would not say it. When the Tsar heard of this, he grew very angry, and he called for the shepherd to come before him. The shepherd came at once, and he stood in front of the throne where the Tsar sat, looking mighty and powerful. But mighty and powerful the Tsar might be, the shepherd was not one bit afraid of him. "Say it once, say, 'To my good health,'" cried the Tsar. "To my good health," was the reply. To mine, you rascal," stormed the Tsar. To mine, your Majesty," said the shepherd. "But to mine, to my own," roared the Tsar, and he beat his chest in a rage. "Well, of course to mine, and of course to my own," said the shepherd, and he gently tapped his chest. The Tsar was beside himself with rage. He did not know what to do. His Lord Chamberlain came and whispered to the shepherd and said, "Say this at once. Say it this very moment, 'To your good health, your Majesty.' If you do not say it, you will lose your life." "No, I will not say it," said the shepherd. "I will only say it if I may have your daughter, the Tsarevna, for my wife." Now the Tsarevna was sitting in a little throne right beside the Tsar, and she was looking as lovely as a little golden dove. When she heard what the shepherd said, she couldn't help but laugh. The shepherd pleased her very much. Indeed, he pleased her better than any other Tsar's son she had yet seen. But the Tsar was not as pleasant as his daughter, and he ordered that the shepherd be thrown into a pit with the white bear. Now this white bear had not eaten for 2 days and was very hungry. And so the guards took the shepherd and threw him in the pit with the white bear. And before the door was barely even closed, the bear rushed at him, ready to eat him. But when he saw the shepherd's blue eyes, he stopped, and he shrank away. And he shrank away into a corner and gazed at the shepherd from there. And he dared not touch the shepherd. Instead, he sucked on his own paws out of sheer hunger. The shepherd knew that if he took his eyes off the beast, he would be killed. And so, to stay awake so that he could hold the bear with his eyes, he made up songs and sang them. And thus the night passed by. The following morning, when the Lord Chamberlain came in expecting to see the shepherd's bones, he was amazed to find that the shepherd was alive and well. So he brought him before the Tsar, and the Tsar fell into a furious temper and said, "Well, now that you know what it is to be near death, now say, 'To my good health.'" And the shepherd merely replied, "I am not afraid of 10 deaths, and I will not say it, not until the Tsarevna is my wife." And the Tsar said, "Well, then go to your death." And he ordered that the shepherd be thrown into the den with wild boars. Now these wild boars had not been fed for a week, and so they were very ravenous and hungry. And when the guards thrust the shepherd into the den, the wild boars rushed at the shepherd, ready to tear him into bits. But then the shepherd took out a flute and began to play a merry tune. First, the boars shrank away in fear. But then they got up on their hind legs and began to dance. And they looked so funny that the shepherd would have given anything to be able to laugh. But he dare not, because he knew the moment he stopped playing his flute, those wild boars would fall upon him and tear him into pieces. And so he kept playing. And faster he played until the boars fell into a heap, breathless and worn out. At last the shepherd dared laugh, and he laughed long and loud. And when the Lord Chamberlain came in the following morning, expecting to see the shepherd's bones, tears of laughter were still running down the shepherd's cheeks. He was brought before the Tsar again, and the Tsar was more angry than ever to think that the wild boars had not torn the shepherd to bits. And he said, "Well, now that you know what it is to be near 10 deaths, will you now say, 'To my good health'?" And the shepherd merely said, "I am not afraid of 100 deaths. And no, I will not say it. Not until the Tsarevna is my wife." "Then go to 100 deaths," stormed the Tsar. And he ordered that the shepherd be thrown into the deep well of knives. So the guards led him to a dark dungeon. And in the middle of this dungeon is a deep well with long, sharp knife blades all sticking around it. And at the bottom of this well is a little light, so that people could see that whoever was thrown in there had actually reached the bottom of the well. And so the shepherd was brought there by the guards, and then he begged the guards to leave him alone so that he could peer down the well, and perhaps he would change his mind and tell the Tsar, "To your good health." So the guards left him alone, and the shepherd took out his long shepherd's stick and stuck it near the well. And he took off his cloak, and he hung it on the stick, and he took his hat and he put it on top of that, and then he took his knapsack and hung it inside the cloak so that it looked like a body was in it. And when all of this was done, the shepherd called out to the guards and said, "I had considered the matter, and I am still not ready to tell the Tsar what it is that he wishes." So the guards rushed in, but the shepherd hid in a dark corner. The guards took the cloak and the hat and the knapsack and the stick and took them all together and threw them down the well. And they looked down the well to see that the light had gone out, and when it did, they came away. And each of them truly thought that they had thrown the shepherd in the well. And they really did think that that was the end of the shepherd. But the entire time, the shepherd was laughing. Quite early the next morning, when the Lord Chamberlain came in carrying a lamp, he nearly fell over backward with surprise when he saw that the shepherd was alive and well. So he brought him to the Tsar again. And the Tsar was in such a temper. He was furious, and he said, well, now that you've known what it is to be near 100 deaths, will you now not say, "To my good health"? The shepherd merely replied, "No, I will not say it, not until the Tsarevna is my wife." "Perhaps you will say it for even less," thought the Tsar. And he told his coachman to take himself and the Tsar to the silver wood. When they arrived at the wood, he told the shepherd, "Do you see this wood? If you but say, 'To your good health,' I will give it to you." And the shepherd, he was hot and cold by turns, but he persisted. And he said, "No, I will not say it, not until the Tsarevna is my wife." The Tsar was much vexed, and he asked his driver to keep driving, and then they arrived at the splendid castle, all made of gold. And he said to the shepherd, "I will give you both the silver wood and this golden castle if you but say that one little thing to me, 'To your good health.'" And the shepherd gazed and wondered, and he was quite dazzled. But he persisted, and he said, "No, I will not say it. Not until the Tsarevna is my wife." The Tsar was overwhelmed with feeling, and he told his driver to keep going and to drive to the diamond pond. And there he tried again. "Do you see this diamond pond? I will give you the silver wood, the golden castle, and this diamond pond. You can have them all, if you but say that teeny tiny thing to me, to your good health." And the shepherd had to shut his eyes so as not to be dazzled by the brilliance of the pond. But still he persisted, and he said, "No, I will not say it, not until I have the Tsarevna for my wife." At this, the Tsar knew that his efforts were all useless. He might as well give in. And so he said, "It's all the same to me. I will give you my daughter. But then you must truly and really tell me, to your good health." The shepherd said, "Of course I will say it. Why shouldn't I say it? It stands to reason that I shall say it." And at that, the Tsar was so delighted, more delighted than anyone could have believed. And he announced to the whole country that there was going to be great rejoicing, for the Tsarevna was going to be married. And everyone did rejoice, because the Tsarevna, who had rejected so many royal suitors, had fallen in love with the blue-eyed shepherd. And there was such a wedding as had never before seen. Everyone ate and danced and drank, and the sick feasted, and the children all got presents. And at the Tsar's palace, as according to custom, a great roasted boar's head was carried in and placed before him. And the savory smell of the meat was so overwhelming that the Tsar began to sneeze. "To your very good health," cried the shepherd before anyone else. And at that, the Tsar was so happy that he did not regret giving him his daughter. In time, the Tsar grew old and passed away, and the shepherd succeeded him. And he was such a good ruler that he did not expect any of his people to wish him well against their will. All the same, the people did wish him well, because they all loved the blue-eyed shepherd.